please put us out of business. Make the road safer, make your truck safer, hire better drivers. Like you do that and we eliminate truck crashes, I mean, then we'll find something else to do, but we've then done our job because ultimately that's the goal. If
That's
the
the goal.
if the public is safer,
Yeah.
we've won.
Welcome to the Heart of Law podcast. My name is Mirena Dumas, and I'm your host. My guest today is someone I've had the privilege of knowing not only as one of the country's most reputable, respected trial lawyers, but also as a trusted friend and also client. Jay Vaughn has built a remarkable career advocating for people whose lives have been forever changed by catastrophic injury and loss, earning a national reputation in trucking and traumatic brain injury litigation, while also helping shape the legal profession through teaching, writing, and leadership. Jay was born in Louisville, Kentucky. He received his undergraduate degree from Murray State University in 1999. He is licensed to practice in both Kentucky and Ohio, but handles cases nationally. Jay has tried numerous cases ranging from automobile collision cases to complex catastrophic injury and death cases. In 2021, Jay, along with his partner Ron Johnson, obtained a $74 million verdict against a paving company for negligently completing a road project, completing or not completing, we'll talk about that case in a bit, resulting the death of a mother in front of her children. But what has always stood out to me isn't the record-setting verdicts and accolades or the countless lawyers that he has mentored. It's really the way that Jay approaches the law and life. There is intention, and I've told this to him personally as well. Jay has never lost sight of the humanity behind every case that he handles, and I've seen that firsthand. I've had the privilege to see that. He believes that being a great trial lawyer isn't about just winning in the courtroom. It's about restoring hope. It's about building trust and leaving people better than you found them. Today, we're going beyond the resume to explore the heart behind the lawyer. Jay, welcome to the Heart of Law. How are you?
Oh my gosh, what a beautiful introduction. We can just stop right there. Like, that's good.
I love
Just
you. What can I
I
say?
love you to death. You've been a long time friend, so this is going to be a lot of fun. I've been looking forward to this.
I'm so excited. Thank you so much. I've known you for years as a lawyer, as a human, as a person, most importantly, just a really good friend. The audience hasn't, obviously, so I want the audience to really get to know who Jay is.
Yeah.
And before the verdicts, the leadership that you exude in this industry, the Ginger Wolverine,
There we
uh,
go.
before the Jay Vaughn, the trial lawyer,
Yeah.
who is Jay?
Wow. I was thinking that's a great question. Very simple, not easy.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm just, I feel I'm a pretty just simple person who wants to enjoy life, who believes in helping others, just, doing right from wrong, and just relaxing. Like that's me. Like I just want to relax and not have stress, help others when I can. I mean, that's probably down to its core. That's,
Yeah,
how
simple man.
really where I'm at. That's it. That's
Yeah.
it. Like I'm easy.
I actually joke about that because, my husband says, I'm just a simple man. And I say, you're so simple, you're complicated.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
simple means knowing what you want, especially after you've paid your dues and you've worked so hard and you've achieved a certain standard and success and you're giving back. Like simple is in a way luxury, right? It's like keeping it simple is what we want because it's stressful. Like this job is stressful. Tell me about the stress of your work because you work with clients who get
Yeah.
very hurt, and that
It,
is a major load to carry. Tell me about
it,
that.
there's two parts to it. I think there's two parts of the stress. There's the stress of the type of work I do. And then I think there's just the stress of trial lawyers in general, regardless if you're playing for defense. I mean, and we'll cover that first. I think that just our profession is a really, really hard profession. I don't care if you're plaintiff, if you're defense, if it's just the demands that we have, especially with technology. Gone are the days where, someone would have to dial your office phone, have a receptionist come find you or say, "Hey, can I take a message? Jay's out in court." It's instant, right? It's most of them have, I mean, all my clients have my cell phone. Most defense lawyers have my cell phone, or so they're texting you, they're emailing you, they're pinging you, whatever the situation is, or in your office, right? You're getting emails and tags through case management software. So you're on all the time and you're getting alerts and notifications and rings and dings and voicemails and stuff constantly. And it's just that in and of itself is stressful, especially if you don't have a system on how to manage it. So regardless of, where you are, being an attorney in general is stressful. Being a litigation attorney, a trial attorney is extremely stressful. And we can talk later about ways to manage it and kind of
Yeah.
experiences. The other part
Yeah.
of the stress is just the specifics of what you said, right? I mean, when I'm handling, catastrophic or wrongful death truck crash cases or road construction cases or clients with brain injuries. I have several clients now that have amputations. I have one who's paralyzed. Just resolved one who's paralyzed that I'm sure that you help with on the settlement planning. Um, that's the hardest of the hardest that we do. I mean, people don't call us when good things happen, right? It's only when bad things happen. And most of our cases that we get now, rarely is it a client reaching out directly or a family member. It's through another lawyer that's calling to either straight refer it or do a co-counsel deal, either in Kentucky or some other part of the country. And just dealing with the family, dealing with expectations and the reality of what the rest of their life is going to look like is always life altering, whether it's a catastrophic injury or obviously if they lose a loved one, it takes a toll. I mean, it beats you down. It takes away part of your soul. It takes away part of your emotions, and you start to feel it. So with the photos we see, the videos we see, the records we read, the testimony we do, sitting in people's living rooms and talking to them, I mean, it's definitely secondary trauma that we get. It's hard. And I think some lawyers do a better job of handling it and managing it. Some don't. There's part of you that has to let some of that in so you can have that empathy and that compassion and be able to voice it. But if you let in too much, it'll consume you. And I've done that before where it gets in and all you do is cry, right? You just can't deal with it. Um, but you gotta let in some. I think that's what makes a lot of us the way we are and how good we are. And with our results is that we can relay that from an empathetic voice to a jury or someone, a trier of fact or an adjuster or a defense lawyer to help them understand really what the gravity of the situation is.
Yeah, yeah. Trucking is interesting because I remember sort of like the Apitla days when people were starting to talk about trucking as its own discipline, its own specialty. And then I've seen it go from like this one conference to becoming five or six conferences nationwide. Now everybody's doing trucking. It's a very technically demanding specialty, right? And you and a very small group of attorneys around the country have spent decades perfecting your craft. What is the difference between somebody that handles a handful of cases and only does trucking versus law firms that just say we do trucking and like what what is the difference in outcome essentially?
Um, I mean, the difference in outcome is, and there's always exceptions, but in most cases, if you're a lawyer that has some trucking cases but hasn't a volume of other car wrecks and slip and falls and whatever it may be, you're it's easy to focus on the truck case because it's usually going to be larger coverage and bigger injuries, but there's so many nuances that a lot of lawyers don't know, haven't taken the time to understand, and there's pitfalls along the way that will, exclude potential coverages applying later, or
Yeah,
they'll get a case done for a certain amount, thinking those are the policy limits, and the policy limits were, instead of, 1 million, the policy limits were 100 million, and they wouldn't know it unless they really knew what to ask for and how to press it.
yeah,
The lawyers that really, really specialize in this, especially the lawyers that have become board certified in truck accident law, which I have, I mean, we live it, we breathe it, and we amongst us even communicate to make sure we're not missing something, but we know the questions to ask, the paths to go. That's part of it. The other part is just on, so I'd say typically results, again, always exceptions. There's some phenomenal lawyers who do a bunch of different types of cases. I've got some amazing settlements, some amazing verdicts
Mhm.
that may not be only doing trucking, but I'd say by and large, the ones that just do trucking and do it at the level that we do it,
Yeah.
are getting better results. And I know and there's, know so many cases where lawyers have gotten the case done. They're like, hey, telling you about this case. I got this thing done for this. And I'm like, oh, well, what about, was there a broker? Was there a shipper? Was there a trail policy? Was there an excess? Was there a hidden motor carrier? Was there, and you're rattling stuff off. They're like, no, I mean, the defense lawyer said there's only a million coverage. I'm like, okay, like,
Mhm.
like, okay, that got it. Um, you know, um, so that's part of it. The,
And I've witnessed those cases too, by the
yeah,
way. But I'm in a
yeah.
position that I can't like, and these are
Mhm.
people that come bring me business too. And I am not a lawyer, but like I can see that there is more and there could be more to a case. And it's like, if you only just picked up the phone and called for help, or a lot of you guys are willing to just help and just shed light to the situation. So,
I mean,
like, what's
we
the
are.
message to those attorneys?
We are, and there's times that lawyers will call me or some other, close friends and
Yeah.
just ask for advice or sample something. And there's some that we talk to that we know are A-plus lawyers. They just maybe haven't had this type of case before. And I know they can do a great job on their own. They just need a little guidance and happy to help. And there's lawyers that call that have maybe a really good case and they're just wanting, 100% of our work product. And that's where it gets a little dicey. It's like, hey, listen, I'm happy to help, but I can't just send you everything. I mean, like, listen, at some point, even if you get my materials on some of the things, you won't know what to do with it. You won't know how we get there with it, how to really position the case and the order of depots and dealing with motions and dealing with different things. And they'd be better off, not even start referral, just do some co-counsel thing, come up with some arrangement
And
and
then
learn
learn
and
through the
sit and
process.
learn
Yeah.
100%. Don't
Yeah.
not cut you out, but sit and learn.
Yeah.
So then next time you're better equipped, it only helps the client. And typically when that happens, the result that we can get their now percentage of the recovery on a co-counsel deal,
Yeah.
they're still making more than if they did it themselves. And I'd say that one other area is the initial intake evaluation investigation, whether there's a case. That's a long sentence, but
Yeah.
there's been so many cases where I'm in two now where I was not the first lawyer to look at the case.
Mm.
And one of them, a lawyer, referred to me. And this attorney has sent me cases before and knows the moment something like this comes in to at least call me, even if other firms have turned it down. Um, I'm in another one. I'm in litigation now where something similar happened, but two other firms turned it down. One is a nationally known big firm that does plenty of stuff, and the police report has the client 100% fault. Um, I see the police report, and I'm actually in the process of putting together a presentation on this. I've had so many cases that fit this category, but a lot of lawyers, especially that don't do the intake themselves or have a high volume and don't have the time to just spend an hour or two with a potential client on a case to see if you're even going to accept it, just go off the police report. And police report has your client at fault. They turn it down, send a non-engaged letter, and they're like, we're out. I never believe the police report. Even if it has my client not at fault. Like I assume there's something wrong in the police report. Not wrong in the sense like a police officer did something intentionally.
Sure.
Just that they're busy.
Not the
They
complete picture.
yeah,
Right.
they may not be trained at the accident reconstruction level.
Yeah.
So and they may not be familiar with commercial motor vehicles and certain laws that apply. They may not download the cell phones, they may not download the airbag control modules of the vehicles. There's so many things they just may not do due to budget, due to time, due to experience and training that a lot of police reports get written and things are wrong. They just are. So I accept it as a piece of evidence in the case, but not the end all be all. And the lawyers that really do this stuff all the time can read a police report, get an idea of what the crash was like, and go, something doesn't add up.
Hmm.
And there's several that I've gotten to where once I got the police file and the body cam, the dash cam, the police photos, 911 calls, and went to the scene and talked to witnesses, realized the crash could not have happened the way the police report describes it.
Yeah.
Um, and have had some to where the police report is 100% incorrect and the client did nothing wrong. Um, and these are cases where clients are have amputations, paralyzed, like true
Brain injury.
catastrophic brain
Yeah.
injury,
Yeah.
and several were killed. And when you see the police reports, especially if your client's getting air cared, is unconscious, sadly passes away, and the police report only has statements from the truck driver,
Yeah.
it can't from your client for common sense reasons. That should start to raise a red flag going, you know what? I probably owe it. Even have to spend 4, 5, 6 grand on experts to fly somewhere, to bring someone in to look at this. It's worth that. That's our cost of doing business to
Mhm.
see to push back.
Yeah.
And we're in the business that we have to push back.
Yeah.
We have small caseload. They're all every case I have is complex. Like there's no low-hanging fruit of my cases. There's not one that's low-hanging fruit. They all are really hard. But that's the business we're in. And I think that's the difference. There's a lot of lawyers that, some get truck cases where they get rear-ended by, some big truck and some big national company and the families in the car and there's all these witnesses, it's all on video, and they know that this company has a huge tower. Like, yeah, I mean that's, sad, horrible situation. But yeah, a lot of lawyers, talk about those. It's the ones that are just as bad, just as sad, but hard that they go, liability dispute, we'll just turn it down. And sometimes other lawyers won't pick it up, and those families go without ever getting answers. So that's the
Yeah.
last part. I feel sometimes if someone's reaching out to me and it's someone that's catastrophically injured, they lost a loved one, the best I can, I owe it to them to try to get an answer. And that's the one I'm in now, where the client's paralyzed. And I'm the third firm to look at it. And I felt I owe it to this client to spend some money, go to the scene, inspect the vehicles. And even if the answer is still no, at least I can give him answers. And the answers I've gotten so far is starting to lead to the conclusion police report's wrong.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Some people think that trucking cases are simply like bigger car wreck cases, and
Mhm.
they're not. This
They're
is
not.
what you just explained makes it its own discipline. So if somebody
Yeah.
wanted to get into trucking and was serious about that, what does it mean to go down this path to learn trucking? How long does it take? What is it like to get board certified? Can you talk about
Sure.
that?
Sure. I mean, the process is, I mean, I started when I was a young lawyer. My mentor, a lawyer in Northern Kentucky and Florence, Kentucky, named Andy Busald, who recently retired. Andy did truck stuff, and he had in his closet back when everything was paper. He had something called the Big Truck Form File, and there were two red wells of just articles and research on trucks and copies of the CDL manual or copies of the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations. And anytime a truck case came in, he'd pull out the Big Truck Form File, and we sit there at a conference table and go over it. So he already knew the resources back then to look at, and they've obviously evolved and advanced since then. But that's the step is to get some basic resources. Look at the CDL manual in your
Yeah.
jurisdiction. Get a copy of what we call the Green Book, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations. They have a blue one for buses. Get one for buses, and then start going to whether it's the AAJ Trucking Litigation Group. Join that for I think it's $200 a year. Join that. Start going to some of the programs. Go to different conventions that have it. Join the Academy of Truck Accident Attorneys, ATAA. Join that. Their annual symposium's coming up in September in Denver, and it's 5 to 550 lawyers across the country, and the 3 days of seminars, nothing but trucks, all different levels and different experiences and complexities. But to start getting involved and just going to stuff and just sitting there and being a sponge and listening and not just doing email the whole time during the seminar and on your phone, but like sitting there intently taking notes, and whether however you take notes, but getting information, getting takeaways, trying to listen intently enough to where you're getting one or two takeaways from every single talk. And then start to figure out how do I implement that in my practice, whether it's intake, whether it's client relations, whether it's initial investigation and evidence preservation letters, or use of experts earlier, going to inspections yourself. I mean, whatever it is, try to implement it and then reach out to the lawyers that spoke that if you don't know them already that resonated to you the most and just say, hey, I'm Jay Vaughn. I've been practicing for like 3, 4 years and I'm at a firm and starting to get some truck cases, but I want to make sure I do it right. Like, can I ask you some questions? And all of us will say yes. But to not be afraid to make those relationships, do that networking, but
Yeah.
also with the goal in mind of I really want to learn this. And the best way I'll learn it is to partner with one of these lawyers that do it at the level up here and I'm down here and give up some of the fee and co-counsel with some of these people and learn. Um, because the investment you're making
Yeah.
just pales in comparison to you giving up, some percentage points on a case. And that's really how you learn. And then eventually you then parlay that into volunteering for a committee. Volunteering, hey, is there any time I could write an article for for one of the organizations on something with trucks? Can I speak on something? I just opposed a truck driver, had an interesting experience. And maybe you get a 15 or 20 minute or 30-minute intro speaking slot and you start building up that and you start
Yeah.
building up your network and eventually you'll get asked to put a seminar together to be one of the lead speakers at a seminar to cover some topic on verdict or settlement you get and the more you're doing that the more you're being seen by your peers as not just an equal but maybe an expert in your field and then
Right.
that's when you can just base your practice specifically just on trucks and not have to worry about competing with the advertisers on TV and radio and online and billboards and buses. You're getting them from colleagues that say, hey, I want Jay on this case.
Yeah. You hit something because, outside of settlement planning, I also help law firms raise money and grow and scale. And in my 15 years of doing this, what I know to be a fact is that the most expensive way of doing business is sharing fees, right? It's more expensive than an expensive loan. It's more expensive than anything. And so you have sort of two fronts. You have the advertisers who are really good at putting money out and getting cases. And then you have the people that actually handle the cases and get the big verdicts. Is there a way for, and I don't know if you've tried to do this in your practice or like maybe you can share some of the challenges, but is it possible to get these cases direct and work them, or is it just it's become so, they're so far apart that it's impossible to be able to get
No,
cases direct and handle them?
I mean, you can get them direct. I mean, if you're, I mean, if you're doing website and SEO and now AI
Yeah,
stuff. And I mean, people, can find you and can message you.
yeah,
Still, my experience is most of them go to the advertisers. That's who's the squeaky wheel gets the grease. That's who they see. And that's, again, it's all about branding, right? That's the
yeah,
brand in their mind. Even though there's a lot of lawyers that are advertising that get the cases and literally don't know what they're doing.
right.
And I say that without any hesitation. Some of them
Yeah,
have called me in on cases, and you look at it and it's like, what the hell are you all doing? Like, you have no business
yeah,
handling this.
right.
But can you? Sure.
Yeah. Have you
Most
tried?
li
Like, what are the challenges you've experienced
I
in
mean,
doing?
we do SEO,
Yeah,
we have a company we use, that helps and with our website and we do meetings and stuff and checks our rankings and there's Google local services and a bunch of stuff like that. Now the AI part's taken off
yeah,
some people are putting money into that and making sure that there's, information out there on them that AI can pull and all that's helpful.
yeah,
But you
yeah,
still can't financially compete unless your intent is I'm going to be an advertising firm. You can't just say, hey, let me just throw 10 grand out there at this in my market. Like that money's gone like that and it doesn't do anything.
yeah.
So
So
it's
you kind of have to
either
pick or choose, right? It's like
you
the
do,
business model.
you
Yeah,
do. Like we have our website and we pay a lot of money for it and for the SEO and all that stuff. But it's more as a it's just a cost of doing business. We need to have an online presence with our results and different articles, and if we like links to podcasts and like all that's out there for the people that want to find us.
Yeah.
And it's, you have to have it, but we don't, even though we have a contact form and we get people that fill out that submit and reach out to us or call us. We're usually not the first firm they call, or it's usually like med mal, or it's property damage, no injury, like things like that. But it's we we know we have to spend the money to have that presence, but we don't expect. We'd love to get cases from it without a
Right.
referral fee.
Right.
We just
Yeah.
don't expect it. The
Yeah.
really the best way you're going to get a case straight without a referral or co-counsel deal or from former clients, people in the community that know you
Right.
through sports and school and kids
Mhm.
activity like that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's hard
The
to do.
long shot. Yeah.
It's hard
You
to do.
know, and I don't know how accurate this is in the sort of gathering information and learning. And I got this from through the grapevine in this industry that with AI and ChatGPT and this newer generation coming in, that the way they want to find answers and they do their diligence now, it's no longer on Google. And so going into asking questions, prompting it to say, here's what happened to me, and find me the law firm that best matches and could, based on my personality or whatever values, doesn't matter, find me the best match. And so if you are organically feeding, information, testimonials, case information, or what you specialize in, that eventually will come in front of the consumer. Now, I don't know if ChatGPT and how they're going to monetize advertising, and I'm sure that landscape is still very much evolving, but there could be a reset, is my point.
Right.
And that reset could even the landscape for everybody. And so I do recommend to all the firms right now, do the work, hire the intern or hire the marketing person, do the kind of redundant stuff that you don't think matters, because I do think it will. It will matter. It will scrape all that information that's real, authentic, relevant to the consumer. And then you become the person instead of the advertiser who just is putting a billboard or doing some SEO and is paying the most money for that for
Agreed.
their cases. So I think there's a value in that, because it's not fair. It's really not fair that somebody that doesn't know what they're doing gets the case. And if they're conscientious enough and smart enough, they pick up the phone and call you
Hmm.
to talk to you about the case or refer you to the case. And the worst case scenario is they don't do any of that and they just settle for whatever money they think is available, and they do a true injustice to the client that's been harmed for life, right?
Yeah.
So,
No, I agree. And the whole AI thing's a new movement. And I got several months ago, got my first ever potential call from a guy whose brother was in a bad wreck in Kentucky. And he found me from ChatGPT and Claude, is how he found me. And
yeah,
he basically searched each of the platforms and got a list of like the top three or top five lawyers in Kentucky for, it was a brain injury case.
yeah,
And I was the only one that made both lists in the top three. So he called me and talked to him, talked to his sister. It never panned out, never heard back. It was going to be a situation where it sounded like there was just going to be no coverage. I mean, sadly, but I was just curious. And he told me what he did and that I was the only one that popped up. No, I popped
yeah,
up in the top two on both lists.
yeah.
And the other lawyer popped up in one of them. I'm like, yeah, that guy's great. Like, he's a really good lawyer too. So, like, I'm glad to make that list. But,
That's
um,
exactly it. Yeah,
so I think the super lawyer rankings and some of that matters. Obviously, verdicts and you're getting in the news
yeah,
and you're published there obviously matters. It's
yeah,
just hard. I mean, it's hard. It's stressful.
yeah.
And I go
Competitive.
and listen. I go through waves of this feeling of, hey, I haven't gotten a call in a while. Am I going to be able to keep the lights on and things running? And I need another case. I got a case resolved. I need one or two more. And I hit that. I still have those
I
feelings
do
of this
too, by the
this
way.
anxiety, right? This anxiety of crap, what's going to happen? Like if something doesn't come through, um and then next out of the blue, you get a call or two from a couple lawyers, and I got called, Ron, I got called from a lawyer on a case of a cast iron road construction case in another state that we're now investigating and getting ready to file suit on.
Yeah.
And 2 months ago we didn't have a new one on that. So like it happens.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously me, it's why I speak so much. I mean, that's one way it's what I've just accepted the fact that most of my cases are going to come from other lawyers.
Yeah.
So it's why I
Yeah.
speak and write articles and do all that stuff.
I mean, lawyers, contingency fee lawyers are the definition of an entrepreneur
Yeah,
because you don't know. Like you get a case, you settle a case, you start over,
yeah.
right? And so everything you do in every case matters. And who knows? I do think the landscape will reset. One thing I've always admired about you, Jay, is that you are both very analytical in your cases and very technical, but you're also equally very human. And I've seen you with your clients, and I see how you take control, and I see how you hold their hand and you ask questions on their behalf, questions that they wouldn't know how to ask, right? That's how our relationship started. So
Yeah.
I've learned and grown to respect the way that you practice law and then how you take care of clients. Trucking cases aren't simply won by knowing like the federal motor carrier safety regulation, right?
Right.
They're won by understanding trauma, by understanding injury, by understanding decision making, grief, family dynamics, right? Do you feel that at this point in your career, you're practicing law, but you're also like studying human nature, and there's like this ability to really know humans and study that human behavior and then respond accordingly?
Yeah, I mean, I think that just the way I'm built, I probably get it from my dad. My dad's such an emotional, compassionate person.
Mhm.
Um, the human element matters the most. Understanding how to interact with people, to convey a message, to make them feel comfortable. To like, I had a client come in the other day. It was in a bad truck crash, a little over a year ago, and she's got a brain injury and still having problems and deficits and under treatment of a
Yeah.
physiatrist and going through some eye therapy and has some positive imaging that showed some stuff and she's struggling and she came in the other day and we sat down to talk and um you know I mean I just looked at her and I said, "How are you doing?" She goes, "I'm fine." I said, "No, I don't want to hear the BS of the typical 'I'm fine.' Like,
Mhm.
how are you?" And then she started crying. And we sat and we talked. And like, I told her to get up and I said, "Come give me a hug." And, she's like, "I'm a hugger." I was like, "I am too." And I'm like, I knew something was wrong. Like, let's talk about this. And we walked through it. And that's the connection. You have to, it's not filling a form out. It's not telling me about your damages. It's just talking. And like, I was on a plane once, like a year and a half ago and my beard was growing out a little bit more. I think I had on, I love the band Tool. I love anything that Maynard,
Mhm.
does for Tool and his other bands. And so I'm in like my Tool sweatshirt and talked to a guy that knew a mutual friend. One knew Ron, I think. And I forgot who else was on the plane. I forgot who else it was. Another connection of someone else. Anyway, I remember I meet this guy and he's like, "Man, you don't look like a lawyer." I'm like, I take that as a compliment. Like I don't want clients, I don't want people to leave a meeting feeling that they just met with a lawyer. I want them feeling like they just left with someone who they can connect with, who they could sit and have a cup of coffee with or have a beer with. And the legal stuff and the FMC, the FMCSRs and the technical aspects, like that's what we need to survive summary judgment. That's what we need to have a, to meet the elements to get a case before a jury. But after that, enough in the record for the judge and based on the law, and enough in the record if we have to go to appellate courts. Outside of the stuff we have to do to check those boxes, everything else is just about human nature, is about the impact and the damages and the story. Um, and that's the focus. That's
Yeah.
just it's why I'll text my clients all the time and like what's going on and I'll screenshot it and save it. But like I want
Yeah.
them to have access and I want them to know that they can always talk to me.
Yeah.
Um, that's the part I care about the most.
Yeah.
Um, is that connection and that they know
Being
that
human, just
that yeah,
being
being just being to
human
me, just
being.
being me again, just being normal, just
Yeah.
Just no different if we bumped into each other, at a restaurant or a bar, like just chatting. Like that's like I do with friends from college or law school or whoever. That's what I
Yeah.
want them to feel. And then same then, but them knowing that, if I have to stand up, I have to fight, like I got them, and that they're comfortable and they're trusting in my hands.
Yeah. Something I've heard from you and also some other lawyers in your community, the trucking community, which I've never heard anywhere else. And I've heard this in normal conversation and then also in speaking engagements that you guys aren't afraid of being put out of business, that you guys say, we want the roads to be safer. We want less trucking accidents. We want to be put out of business. I find that so noble and so incredible because I know that something else would come. And there's unfortunately people have TBI, so I know you'd pivot pretty well into doing TBI cases. But tell me about that. Like how does that come about and become one of the most important values of the community that you are part of?
Because we see how it is now, and we see the devastation in the lives of our clients and their loved ones
Yeah.
based on just sometimes decisions out of greed to sometimes just idiotic decisions that could easily be fixed by spending an extra $100 per truck to put a system in or a camera in, or adding a little bit extra training, or making the tough decision to actually fire a driver if you're getting,
Yeah.
if they're having problems, to actually not just sign up for like all these trucks, not all, most have what's
Yeah.
called a telematics system. It's a computer system with sensors and that's tracking the truck and the engine and the movement and speed and turns and everything you can imagine. And if it's cameras, whether they're falling asleep or using their phone or who knows what. And we've been in cases, and my colleagues have been in cases where they have the system. Awesome. And they're getting in a week or a, you know, 2 week time frame or a month time frame, they're getting 80, 100, 200, 300 alerts of unsafe driving for the same driver and doing nothing. Meaning they're ignoring the alerts. They're getting the alerts, but they're just ignoring it. And if they just acted on one of the 80 alerts before this fatal crash, guess what? Driver went off the road and our family would be alive.
Yeah.
So it's things like that. And it comes, and listen, being a truck driver is not an easy job. It's a job I wouldn't want, job you wouldn't want. Running a truck company is not easy. It's stressful and the margins are low and they're tight because of what the brokers are charging and shippers are charging and cost of fuel. And I mean, there's so many factors that are affecting the industry. Um, that that it's tough. I've never been on that side of it. I know people who have, and it's tough, but a lot of decisions are made out of money or out of fear instead of being proactive. The insurance companies, they're not blameless on this. I mean, it's if they would not insure some of these high risk companies, these companies that don't have any authority history,
Yeah.
if they would put more safeguards in place, if companies, and thank God for the U.S. Supreme Court decision of Montgomery versus Creed Transport and C.H. Robinson saying, listen, like you need to be smarter and have procedures and vet these carriers before you put them on the road. Up until that decision, what they're doing is basically lowest bidder wins, and they're putting truck companies who literally the day before, I mean, you can go online for $300, as Ed Sheeran says, for $300 insurance and a pulse. You can submit a form and get your DOT authority. And the next day, you can bid on one of these load boards with a broker and be on the road with
Yeah.
no driving experience, no track record. You haven't been audited by the federal government yet. And then these companies are, getting in horrible crashes, getting shut down the next day, reopening under a different name. They're called chameleon carriers, and then running again. So there's things that can be done, but all of us will say, all of us across the board that do this for a living, that live it, that breathe it,
Yeah.
say, please put us out of business. Make the road safer, make your trucks safer, hire better drivers. Like you do that and we eliminate truck crashes, I mean, then we'll find something else to do, but we've then
Yeah.
done our job because ultimately that's the goal.
That's the goal.
If the public is safer,
Yeah.
we've won.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a different message from, I mean, honestly, like, because I work with attorneys from all walks of life, and I I've never heard that, and it stood out to me, and it struck me, and I've never forgotten it. So definitely wanted to ask that question because I think for those listening, going into this profession, knowing how hard the profession is to begin with, the competition, the expenses of doing this, not knowing if you're going to get a good outcome or not, right? But then to have that as the ultimate objective, I think that is so expansive and so wonderful that it's something that should inspire those who are either trying to figure out what they want to do in this business. But this is the way to anchor yourself because when you do work like that, it finds you. People find you. The good
Okay.
cases find you. What I also love that about the trucking community is it's a very tight-knit community. You guys all work very, very closely together. You share experts, you brainstorm together, you celebrate each other's victories. You know, it's rare in the profession. I haven't seen that either. What is it about this community that creates such deep friendship?
Because we know what that lawyer has put into that case,
Mm,
time and money and heartache, and whether
yeah,
it's a victory and whether it's a loss. I mean, we console each other on losses, and we all get losses, whether it's a defense verdict or a low verdict, or a case gets thrown out by a judge, and we have to go to the appellate courts and aren't successful there. I mean, we've all been through it, and but we know that those in that close-knit community still have the same goal.
yeah,
Um, we want to take care of our clients and their families. We want to get them answers. We want some accountability
yeah,
from the companies that have devastated the lives of our clients.
yeah.
And we want to make things better and safer. I mean, that's so we all share that. And and there's a small group that of us that when we get together, the beautiful part of it is unless it's something where we truly need someone's opinion or advice, we don't shop talk. We don't talk about cases. We talk
Mhm.
about each other and our lives and families and activities and things going on. And,
Yeah,
that's what we try to talk about, because a lot of us want to be defined by more than just work. I don't want
yeah,
to just be known for, being a plaintiff lawyer, being a truck lawyer. Like, I don't
yeah,
want to, like, I want to be known for who I am, what I like to do,
yeah.
and because I mean, that's the memories I want people to have. So we have, several of us, and we get together, like we don't talk shop. We just don't.
It's a true friendship and
It
meaning
is.
you acknowledge each other for the hard work because you get it, because you're both like you're all in the trenches together. So you
Yeah.
respect it because you're in that together. But then when you're together, that is the way to escape sort of the pressures of the work and see each other for the real people that you are. I think that totally makes sense. But in those friendships and how you all you stay close together. What are some of the things you do for one another or for example, we talk about well-being and is community important is my point
It
because what I
is.
find is lawyers work so hard.
Yeah.
They work long hours, long days. They don't have time for friends. They don't have time for family. And then it builds over time. So what can some lawyers, and I know that you are very intentional about this, what can people do to help themselves when they are in a pressure cooker working on very tough cases like
Yeah.
this?
I think it's always good to find an outlet with one or more colleagues in your field.
Yeah,
I think it's good to find an outlet from a few people outside of family, but
yeah,
who also aren't lawyers, who
yeah,
you can just bounce stuff off of and just, but like within my lawyer group, like the ones that I probably communicate with and do stuff with the most. I mean, there's, different ways that we communicate and keep that community going. One is just the true straight on, how you doing, what's going on, and how's the family, you're on a trip, anything new upcoming, any trials coming up, there's that part.
yeah,
There's trips, whether it's a golf trip, or a wine tasting or whatever it may be, or hey, we have the seminar going up and I see that we're all going. You want to come in a day before, stay a day after, and go do something. It's while you're there at a conference, packing exercise gear and getting in the morning and working out together or taking a walk or a hike. I mean, we've all done that.
Yeah.
And then in our text threads, and I'm one of the biggest culprits, is just purely busting each other's balls. I mean, I'm talking memes and creating stuff and
Yeah.
nicknames and, I mean, there's so many texts I've sent to people with their face in pictures and memes that they never imagined. And that's like,
Yeah.
and then it carries on. Then what you find is those things then start to show up when we're presenting to a group. All of a sudden, some in a PowerPoint, there'll be a picture of me or, Ed Ciamboli or, Eric Penn or Pete Kestner or Joe Camerlingo. There'll be a picture of one of us doing something that we wish wasn't there or some tag to it. And people are laughing. And that's
Mhm.
our show of our love and camaraderie is like we will literally put that into PowerPoints where the other person's there and doesn't know it's the last slide. And it's hilarious. Like, it's what we do. Like that's our way to
Just
just let
staying
everyone know that we
sane.
care. And then on the personal side, like listen, this is a hard profession, and I've said this at seminars, I've said this in other podcasts, and I'll say it in yours. For the different audience is what as a plaintiff trial lawyer, especially doing trucking, the pressure on us is so high because besides the attorney and counselor part and the financing and the business decisions and the getting the cases, knowing how to move it along and all of that, besides all of that, and getting ready for trial and trying the case, and even besides all of that, in addition to that, we have to be experts in everything. We have
Mhm.
to be experts in accident reconstruction and biomechanical engineering and human factors and neuropsychology and neurosurgery and neuroradiology,
Yeah.
um, economists, vocational experts, whatever it is, we have to know it enough to be able to cross-examine some of the top experts in the country, to
Yeah.
then direct examine some of the top experts in the country. So it then comes out in a way that the jury can understand it and go, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And we're carrying that with so many things we have to do, where if you look at other professions, you look at, if you're a family doctor and a patient comes in and says, yeah, I was playing pickleball yesterday and I fell and my knee's really bad and I can't put weight on it. And they're like, you know what? You need to go see my friend who's the orthopedic surgeon. And they're like, not it. And they pass it to the orthopedic surgeon. Same with cardiology and cardiovascular surgery, whatever it may be. In law, in the injury world, we don't refer, like we have to know all those specialties, and it's
Yeah.
a burden. It's a heavy burden. So you have to have a release. And we kind of talked about this before we started recording, but I have a regular therapist I've been seeing for a while, for I mean, coming close to 2 years, well over a year and a half. And some visits are stressful visits, some are just happy to talk about stuff, some just get stuff off your chest. I think it's important that we have someone like that and in confidence to talk to. I think that reading is good. I started journaling, and initially every day, and now every couple days. I journal today. Before I came to record this, I journal and I read books. I've read, there's a book called The Obstacle is the Way about Stoicism, which I thought was really good. There's a companion book called The Daily Stoic, and they have daily passages. And today I read the passage for July 6th. Um, and so I think that stuff's good, whether it's also podcasts or little self-help mindfulness mindset videos on Reels or Instagram, whatever platform you use,
Yeah.
whatever your outlet is. The Calm app has some great stuff. Whatever it is, I think it's good to have some of that mindfulness, wellness, self-help in your life, whatever it is, to whatever degree. Some people meditate. Some will just, I mean, I think we need something because the demands, like our job isn't getting easier, and the demands and the directions we're getting pulled just keeps increasing and increasing.
Yeah. I mean, I think ultimately taking care of yourself means that you can be a better advocate for your clients and you can be a better friend and all those things. And sometimes I'm guilty of this, right? Taking time to be recharged, to sleep 8 hours, to eat well, to exercise. That is not a luxury. That's a necessity. That's maintenance. That's preservation, especially later in life. Those things become very, very important. And, sometimes people do get lost in the busyness of the profession and of life, and they put themselves last until something happens. I was talking to an attorney this morning who I hadn't talked to in 2 years, and we're catching up, and he is fighting stage 3 cancer. And while he's trying to keep a busy practice alive because there is no other way. So you don't want to remember taking care of yourself when you have disease and illness knocking on your door. So I think your message is very important to
Mhm.
this profession, to the attorneys, to everybody that works in this industry. So I appreciate you sharing that. I know that we don't have a lot of time left, so I want to ask some specific questions about some of the work we've done together because I think
Sure.
it's an important message to get across to other lawyers. One of the verticals that I specialize in is settlement planning, and it's one of my favorite lines of business because I love working with people, and that's where the compassion, the joy, the feeling like you're actually doing something that matters comes out. And we have a team here. When we started working together, like it was so impressive to see one, how well of a connection you had with your clients, two, how well you understood what happens post settlement. Because we have lawyers we work with all the time that once the case settles, they just give us the client's name and phone number and say, take it from here and let me know what the client wants to do. That is not what you do. That is not what your partner does. You guys walk it all the way to the very, very end. And you've learned about the Qualified Settlement Fund and the use of that. You have dealt with defense brokers on the other side. We're dealing with one now. Like you understand the dynamics that go on and the business piece that goes on long after the case is settled. What
Mhm.
can you share with other attorneys that think, you know what, once the case settles, I'm done. Like, I don't want to deal with it. Like, why is it important for attorneys to understand what happens after the case settles?
I mean, because there are so many first steps that need to be taken to make sure that you spend all this time and money and effort to secure the result for your client. You need to put the same time and effort, into concluding the entire case for the client. Um, and there's nuances that go in with settlement planning. There's obviously pitfalls, there's tax implications, there's just a basic um, lack of understanding because, I mean, most of my clients have not had the sophistication to understand investing and annuities and how that works. And they have to review tons of agreements and contracts and in that the money's locked away if they go that route, or if it's a trust route, to understand that there's a trustee in place or certain, ways to access, but you still have a buffer there to make sure it's for your best interest. And a lot of clients, they get overwhelmed with it because they don't understand it. And some lawyers just walk away from it. I mean, we try to stay involved through every bit of it until truly everything's funded, everything's done, and we can truly close the file, meaning there's nothing left. We've gotten court approval, we've got all the paperwork signed and the releases, and then the annuities have been funded and the trusts are set up. And I mean, a lot can happen. And you have other dynamics that happen where if you're not involved and you're dealing with a client, all of a sudden that client's brother is now on the phone, or their dad's on the phone, or their son's on the phone trying to manipulate or maneuver the money going somewhere else. Or can we do this? And then the client has a new idea. No, I want it all cash now. I want to buy a truck and a house and a truck for my brother. It's not. I mean, I think some lawyers have the mindset of, well, the case is over, I'm getting my fee, move on to the next case. To me, the client looked to me to help them with this case, and under all of our ethical rules and everything else. I mean, we're there as advisors and counselors, and we have to, I think, see it all the way through. So, I have a hearing on Friday on one where we settled over 60 days ago, and we still don't have anything because of an issue with the insurance companies involved in the annuities. So we had to file a motion for settlement. I mean, it happens. But if I wasn't staying involved,
Yeah.
it delays things more, and the client wants answers, and I wouldn't have them. But we do really good work, and we can really, with the right advice, also being if a client's talking to you directly, which is good for some exclamation point and some planning and options,
Yeah.
but you know, they're not going to take your advice as much as the lawyer's been with them for the last 2, 3 years that says,
Yeah.
hey John, hey Jane, let's talk. Come to my office. Like you really like, listen, it's your decision, but in my
Yeah.
20 plus years, 24 years of doing this, you really need to consider option A that Mirena has put on the table. And here's why. I've seen bad things happen. I've seen clients go against those decisions and in 5 years from now call up and say, hey, is there any more money? Because I'm out. It's all gone. I got taken advantage of. So you have that good relationship with your client. It can also not just help your client in the end part of the case, the settlement planning, but also help who you're working with. Like you, Moreno, like give you some ammo and give you some support along the way. And I don't just take the approach of, hey, this is now yours. See ya. Like, I don't think that's the right way to handle it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I do think it's an important message. I do think that attorneys um at the very least need to do enough diligence on who they bring into the case at the end of the case. And then also make sure that they're protecting their client and everyone around them because it's human nature. Somebody
Mm.
comes into a lot of money, you have a child, an 18-year-old or an elderly person coming into a lot of money. If there's not enough protection, if there is no planning, they become vulnerable. And so what you've done is you've taken somebody that's coming from a traumatic situation and you've made them vulnerable again. So I think it's what you guys do is so, so important. And this is not a pitch. This is educating the lawyers, the new generation, that you sign up that client at intake and you stay with that client all the way to the end until they are protected, they have a trust, or they have some kind of mechanism to receive that money tax free when applicable, or in a way that is conducive to their lifestyle and their needs, especially if they have medical needs beyond. So absolutely respect what you guys do. I know we've covered a lot of ground. I could talk to you for days because there's so
Well,
many
there's
topics.
one thing I want to add, and I've
Yeah.
told so many people what I'm getting ready to say is that, um, my partner Ron Johnson and I just thoroughly, thoroughly enjoy working with you and your company, just because of your compassion, how much you care for what happens to the clients, your level of detail, really, I mean, even more than that, which you all are extremely detailed. The importance you put on customer service of reaching out to the client, make them feel comfortable, whether it's a Zoom, a phone call, flying in town to see them. I just think that everything you all offer is just um, as A plus white glove service as you could ever hope for your clients. And our clients have loved working with you all, and we love you and everyone that works for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for trusting in me. And it means a lot to me. Like I don't take that lightly. I love what I do, and I take what you give me as just the biggest opportunity. So I want to add as much value as possible, and so does the team.
And,
Thank
and
you,
you know the
Javon.
next and you know the next time I see you in person, we'll give you a big hug.
Yes, and Ron told me that he wants me to come to Kentucky Derby because, he's got horses and he's
Yes.
so much into that, and I've never done it. So I'm
Oh
looking
my
forward
gosh.
to visiting in
Yes,
person this year.
you have to.
Thank you again,
Yep, thank
and
you.
I'll see you again because you'll be
Okay.
another guest again. We have so
Yes,
much more to talk about,
I
but for
know.
now, thank you.